Right now, it is the start of 2022. We are going to be having a massive year ahead. And while the world has been crazy over the past couple of years, I think you have to become more mentally tough. You have to become more resilient. What is up, guys? I'm Andrew Sparks, and welcome to the first ever official Andrew Sparks podcast. If you are joining us on Spotify, on iTunes, welcome. Or if you're joining us over here on YouTube, welcome and great to have you here. Now, this is the first ever podcast for the Andrew Sparks podcast that I've put together. And, you know, when you're putting together projects like this and wanting to create something that lasts and helps a lot of people for a long time, at some point, you know, new listeners are going to come in, whether this is the first ever podcast that you've listened to mine, maybe when it first comes out, or in 6 months, 12 months, 5 years time, you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, there's some good shit coming out here, but who the hell is this guy and where did he come from? So what I wanted to do is start by putting together a podcast specifically on, I guess, my origin story, where I've come from, what my influences are, and the way that I think, so that you can really determine whether or not this is going to be the right listening for you and you know, if you vibe with the same sort of message. You know, one of the biggest things that I've learned in business and in marketing over the past, more so than ever, a couple of years, is making sure that you are speaking to the right types of people, you know, surrounding yourself with the types of people that are going in the same direction as you. And from that perspective, attracting those right types of clients to you. You know, I'm a business owner. I am an investor as well. And through that process, you know, I want to surround myself with the types of people that think in the same way that I think, and people that I genuinely enjoy working with from that perspective. And, you know, in my other companies as well, like that is the same perspective as well. Like you want great people around you because otherwise you're basically just turning up for a check and it can really suck the lifeblood out of you by going ahead in this fashion. So what better way to kick things off here than putting this piece of framework up as we go and build. Now, as we get further into the future, we will be having more content-based interviews, success stories, these sorts of things that are going to allow you to think on a different level. And to frame this initially, you know, this is not business specific, I would say, even though that's the area that I've operated over the past 10 years. The fundamentals and the things that I'm going to be teaching here come from a psychology and a mindset perspective, because when you have that perspective on things, that gives your head a framework to operate in, whether it is, you know, business, sports, relationships, any area that, you know, in your wealth, any area that's actually important to you. And like I said, even though I've really dedicated the last 10 years of my life to helping people grow businesses, from that perspective, it comes from a mindset perspective. I've studied performance psychology, and that is, you know, how I teach, that is how I think, and that is how I share with you. So let's dive into, you know, a little bit about me. Let's get this one out of the way. And then in future podcasts, we can start to talk about more of the problems that you might be suffering and facing, and then what sort of solutions that we can put in place. And not always problems as well. Sometimes some inspiration is a good thing. And for you to be able to think, shit, maybe I could do that sort of thing for myself. Maybe I don't have this limitation that I thought that I had. And these are the things that really make me passionate about what I do. So let's go back to the beginning. Early on in life, I learned that you don't have to do things the way that everyone else does them. And I also learned the value of self-sufficiency at a young age. When I was 8, I worked in my dad's printing business, and I learned how he operated his business and the mindset needed to build something that actually mattered. I also learned how to stand on my own 2 feet and make my own money because I was prepared to go and work for it. As a kid, I would go after school, sometimes on weekends, definitely in school holidays, and go and work in my dad's factory. And I would, not operate machines, but go and work within the printing business, put together books and binders and these sorts of things. And I would get paid for that. Right. So I learned very early on that if I want something, that I'm going to go and work for it. And another thing that's like really important to me is mastery. And I learned mastery on the weekends. As a kid, I played a lot of soccer, football, depending on where you are in the world. When I'd go to the local, soccer field, the oval, and go and kick the ball, and I'd kick it over and over and over until I'd perfected how to put the ball pretty much wherever I wanted as a very young kid. And then by the age of 12, I was playing upgrades with kids twice my size and winning games for those teams. And, in some cases, like schooling these kids that were much larger than me. The time and the attention and the effort that I put in to mastering the craft, I guess, or the art of soccer at that stage of my life was paying massive dividends. And so seeing how my dad created success for himself, I realized that I could do things my own way in life. So I dropped out of school at 15 and got an apprenticeship as a plumber. And by 19, I had my own plumbing company, and that allowed me in my early 20s to make the money to set out and travel the world. I backpacked in my 20s through North America, through South America, through Europe, lots of Asia as well, and to date have traveled to over 50 countries, learning that freedom is something that is really important to me as well. And all of these things didn't come without difficult times, though. And we'll talk more about this, I'm sure, in future podcasts. But, I hit a rough patch in my 20s where really I questioned everything that I was doing. I had lost myself as a part of the process and knew that I needed to figure my life out and make some massive changes from the way that I was currently living. So one of the big things that I did was venture off on a mountaineering expedition in Patagonia in Chile. Really to think, to get away from the world that I was living in at that point. But little did I know what I was in for on this expedition. The expedition was 6 weeks long. We were high in the mountains with 8 other people that I'd never met. And we carried weights of up to 60 kilos of gear on our backs and sometimes in sleds as we were going across, big glaciers and things like that. And this was in some of the harshest weather conditions on the planet. We had to hike through snowstorms with zero visibility for over 20 miles at a time. We moved strategically as a team on glaciers, tied together by ropes, because if someone fell into a crevasse, there is a very real chance of death. And through that experience, you cover many highs and lows. The highs of summiting mountains at sunrise, learning new skills, communicating with people in literally treacherous conditions. And these things build resilience, right? The lows of being stuck in tiny snow caves for a week at a time, from protection from, the weather conditions out there. I mean, winds were over 100 kilometers an hour. You could not stand up in places without being blown over and, taken quite away. We slept on the snow and were wet like every single second for 6 weeks in a row. And on the mountain, everything tries to kill you. And it really is just survival of the fittest. The mountains ask the same question of you every single day. And that question is this: can you endure? And that process, and I talked about the mental toughness and the things that came from that. Through that process, I ended up with frostbite to my feet, and that made every step of the expedition excruciating from when I got that onwards. The weather was too poor to be rescued, so we had to find our own way back to safety on foot. And hiking back, our expedition leader asked me if my feet were okay. And I turned to her and I said, "Don't you dare fucking ask me that again." And from that point, I did not feel pain from then on for the rest of that hike out. I had made the decision in my head that the job just needed to get done, and complaining or focusing on it wasn't going to change anything. So I just honestly just need to shut up and get the job done. And I was able to block out literally what was piercing pain for 48 straight hours that we hiked so that we could get back to where we needed to be, get back to safety. And, that whole experience made me rethink everything in my life and what was possible at the same time. The expedition was the hardest and the best thing that I've ever done because it taught me resilience and mental toughness at a primal level. No one was coming to save us. Everything on the mount was trying to kill us. And, these experiences are something that you can never, ever get reading a book or taking a course, right? And once I'd stared the real bulletproof me in the eyes through that experience and some other experiences that I'm sure we'll talk about in the future, it was time for me to make some massive changes in my life, to get rid of some bad habits and some bad behaviors that were stopping me being the true best version of me. So with everything that I'd learned as a kid about work ethic, mastering things, and the grit to push through, I worked long and hard to get my life back on track. I studied psychology, neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, and I'm certified in all of these areas. I've read almost every book on mindset and mental conditioning and just been infatuated with this topic. And I've invested hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars as well, investing into learning from some of the world's elite business and life strategists, I guess. I joined Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership Program. That was back in 2009 for one-on-one access to Tony. That was before the Netflix thing when his Platinum Partnership Program was, there was about 100 people in it all up. So sometimes you go to events and there'd be, 50, 60 people there. So you would get that direct one-on-one access with Tony. I was also one of 55 hand-selected from 10,000 applicants for the first year of the Arete Syndicate back in, 2018, 2019, with Andy Frisella and Ed Milet as well. And, all of this work and all of this exposure to people who are the best in the world of what they do, it made me realize that most people don't have the tools. And, for the past probably 15 years now, I've been studying psychology, performance psychology, of how people become great. And in my heart, I knew that I was the person to be able to share this with them in my own way, which is why in 2011, I started a coaching company and started helping people in business and life to help them get the changes and the level of success that they wanted for themselves. And, through all of these experiences, the highs, but especially the lows, they've developed me into the person that I am today, to take risks, to have courage, to, try new things. And I would say emphatically to always be raising the bar in life. And for me, life is about creating wild success and being deeply fulfilled at the same time. I've worked with clients that have made, 30 million pounds in a year, a lot due to the work that we've done together. And I can tell you, often these people just continue to go and chase money. And for me, it has to be greater than that. Money is one thing, but if you're not fulfilled across all areas of your life, and I'm not talking about, balance, quote unquote, but what I'm talking about is you can have a lot more than what you want. You can have it all, in my opinion. Maybe you can't, get every single goal in a 6-month period. For sure, you can't do that. No way, not at all. Otherwise, your goals are too small. But I believe when you commit, when you dedicate yourself to becoming the best version of you, the life that you want is out there. You just have to have the courage to say not good enough in the areas that it's not good enough and actually step in and make the decisions that you need to make to be able to create the life that you want. So, what I care about today is helping good, honest, hardworking people build themselves into the bulletproof killers that they need to be, that likely they already are inside, but to be able to help that come out of them. And from there, put them into a high performance environment with exceptionally high standards so they can become the best versions of them and build businesses and in turn lives that they never thought that they could have by working hard and by becoming resilient. In my opinion, anything is possible. And so I guess that's just a little bit of a backstory about me. And I think it's important to have that foundation so that the direction that we go from here can be, okay, here's somebody with a performance psychology background, with a performance psychology mindset. Maybe there's some things that can be learned here. And I'm super excited about what we're going to be able to achieve as we move forward. right now it is the start of 2022. We are going to be having a massive year ahead. And while the world has been crazy over the past couple of years, I think you have to become more mentally tough. You have to become more resilient, because there's a lot of people out there just following the line and just doing the shit that's in front of them, or doing what they're told to be doing what they're told to do. And then there's another small group of people, elite group of people that are making hay while the sun shines, while everyone else is thinking that everything's falling apart. So my objective is to be able to help you become the best version of you. That's really all I've got here for this first podcast. Tune in next week. And like I've said previously, you can catch us on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also catch us on Spotify, or you can catch us on iTunes or any of the major streaming platforms. And every single week, we're going to be bringing these podcasts out to you to help you become the best version of you, to develop the grit within you, to get you focused on what's important and cut out everything else, to show you that a level of integrity within yourself, doing the shit that you say that you're going to do, by finding a life designed around you, a very personal and individual life, not following trends and things that, this is what this person does, so this is why I'm going to do it. Screw that. All of these things are a way to make you dissatisfied if you follow what other people do and if you can't learn to think for yourself. And at the end of the day, wrapping all of this up, we're going to build some resilient business owners here with some bulletproof businesses. You can join me over on Instagram. You can see the handle right here if you're checking that out on YouTube. Otherwise, go to The Andrew Sparks on Instagram. You'll see in the bio, there's a link there for a business event. That business event is called Relaunch 22. And if you're interested in getting yourself in the right mindset for 2022, then you definitely should get your ass over there and get registered for that. We're going to be stripping away a lot of barriers, a lot of limitations for people, a lot of the social constructs and a lot of the social norms that have stopped you from stepping it up to the next level, from raising the bar in business. That's what that's all going to be about. So appreciate you joining me here for the first ever podcast. We're super excited about this and can't wait to catch you next week.